The most important part by far to a YouTube channel is editing, by far. I basically am sitting here about to put out my first video and the mecca of all YouTubers is about to judge me. He turns around and he tells me that's the best YouTube video I've ever seen in my life. If there are any people that are 16 through 18 watching this, you'd be surprised how much absurd progress you can make in this industry right now. This is crazy that you brought this up. I haven't talked about this in a long time. Not a lot of people know anything about this. You guys need to be beating MrBeast. This podcast needs to get more views than MrBeast does.
Hey everyone, I am Rafi Salem. Welcome back to the Manhattan Edit Workshop with Josh Apter and Jason Banke. Today we have a very special guest, Mack Hopkins. Welcome.
Hi.
How you doing, Matt?
So Josh, why don't you kick it off? Tell us a bit about the Manhattan Edit Workshop and what we're doing here.
All right. Well, for over 20 years, we've been teaching people how how to edit, not only in the technical sense, but in the conceptual sense. We've had a 6-week workshop for many, many years, and it's really like a boot camp for aspiring editors. Much of that is theory. We look at a lot of films and short form videos and study the history of editing. And what I have noticed over time, because back in the day when we first started, people were like leaving with a VHS copy of their reel for work. And it's gone from like big CRTs to flat screens to decks to DVDs to SD cards. And now it's all happening online. And similarly, I think I said that right. Editors of all shapes and sizes are coming through this class. It's like mostly it was people wanted to cut features and documentaries, and so many students now are interested in short form editing and YouTube editing, and it's really been interesting to watch it. And then people we've talked to, I think reflect that. And so this is right, Mac, this is really interesting to us because your work is in a space that didn't exist when we started, believe it or not. I mean, it's like it's emerged and really taken over. And I remember we did a class. It was remember that, Jason? We did like an inner city class for kids. They were like grade school kids, and at the end we asked what they wanted to be, and almost think like without exception they wanted to be YouTubers. And so it's a real career path, and I'm very interested to hear how you started, the first ideas of saying I want to do this to where you are now. But that's my little intro, and I think hopefully the workshops that we do serve that interest in people. Jason, what do you think? Are we practicing what we preach, or we full of shit?
I think so. Yeah, okay. For sure. But it's great to have you, Mac. I mean, my sons watch MrBeast. That's how MrBeast appeared on my radar. I watch other stuff on YouTube, but that's not a testament to you. That's just to my age. And then with MrBeast games, which is what we really want you to dive deep into. But like they were like, we have to watch this. We have to watch this. And so I watched the whole thing with them, and it's your editing style is definitely something that I mean we can dive right in, but like we usually start these with like getting kind of people's background. So like obviously you didn't just go to MrBeast games and you weren't even with MrBeast. Like you come up and stuff like that. Did you always have an interest in like post-production or even being in front of the camera? Like how did you get from there to where you are today?
You guys should remind me to send you a link. I don't know if you want to edit it into the podcast, but I actually made my first edit when I was like 9 or 10 years old. I have always been super, super obsessive. Like when I was a child, like really young, I was really obsessive with geometric shapes for some reason. I was obsessed with the black ball in a toilet. I was obsessed with bells, the way that they curved. I was obsessed with just random geometric shapes like basketball hoops and stuff like that. And I basically, my editing journey, I think, started when I used this software called Pivot, which is like a stick figure animator. And it's basically like you can pose these stick figures, and every single frame you have to pose them exactly how you want, and then you have to restart. And that's basically me and my little brother, we were making those. And remember my dad was really obsessed with Star Trek, the show Star Trek. And I would watch it with him whenever he came home from work. And I told him that I wanted to make an episode of Star Trek. And so what we did was he took out his like Sony Handycam and started filming me and my little brother, and he cut it together. And I thought it was so cool. He had no idea how to edit, by the way. Like this thing, like looking back, is pretty funny to watch. But pretty much from that point forward, my like obsessive personality switched on to editing. And I mean, that was 15 years ago, and it has not budged, which is pretty bizarre. But it okay, so 15 years ago, we were talking about the space I'm working in didn't exist. That didn't exist for me either. I was I loved editing, and I would basically gather all the kids, from when I was 12 to 16. I did it for the entire time. I'd gather all the kids in our neighborhood together, and we'd make movies with cap guns and things like that. And I kept trying to level up and level up and level up and level up. And eventually it just sort of became, woven into my identity that I was this guy that was on a path to make movies someday. That was like what my whole goal was. And I had this pivotal choice between basically going to a traditional college or going to a film school. And I decided that I wanted to go to a film school. And my neither of my parents, they both went to like they took pretty traditional routes. And so I was starting to like branch off, and it was a little weird for them, I think, but they supported me. And I went to a film school, and I got there, and it wasn't exactly what I was, I think, hoping it would be. Um, I wanted to learn these sort of specifics about editing that I don't think were really available there. And I wanted to learn VFX. I wanted to learn 3D, and I wanted to learn Houdini, which is you guys probably know what that is. It's a simulation software. I was like obsessed with simulations, and it wasn't available at this art school. And this was like a very prestigious art school. Um, and I basically realized at that point, like, I needed to figure out what to do with my life, because I didn't think that film school was going to take me to the point with the place I wanted to go. And so I dropped out of film school about a year and a half in, and I started a YouTube channel with my buddy, Eric. And we grew this channel to about 15 million subscribers over the next 2 years. And I sort of channeled my editing obsession to away from the film kind of traditional sense into more of this like optimization for audiences on the YouTube platform. And I kind of learned that over the next 2 years. And then I got to the point again, I got this like itching feeling that I needed to stop that and do my own thing. And so I left that channel. I made my own YouTube channel, and me and Josh were actually talking about this video before the podcast started. And I basically made this, I made one video, and Jimmy at the time was like this god-like figure. We had 15 million subscribers, but Jimmy had 100 million. Jimmy was getting 100 million views, and he was doing things that didn't even make sense to us. Like I thought that the editing could be better, but clearly the editing is not why his videos were doing well at the time. It was just like he was just doing these crazy spectacles, and he was like almost like this deity in the YouTube world. Like I didn't really know how to like whenever I saw him, I was super nervous. Whenever I talked to him, I was super nervous. And one time Jimmy came to our house, me and Eric's house, and I had this unreleased video of mine. And I basically, someone said something about it that I should show him. And I was so nervous because Jimmy had openly admitted to like most YouTube videos that he watches, he can't even make it past 30 seconds because they're not like optimized to his taste or whatever. And he's like this like kind of harsh critic, and he's very honest. He's like very brass tacks with feedback. So I basically am sitting here like one video in, not even about to put out my first video, and the mecca of all YouTubers is about to judge me. It was a really scary feeling.
Did you sit and watch with him, or could you not?
Dude, it was, yeah, so it was me, Eric, and a bunch of people in our living room watching it on the TV, and Jimmy's in like the center of the couch, and we're all like crowded around him. And I'm just scared for my life. My heart's racing. And it's like, if you watch the video that I'm talking about, it's like a pretty vulnerable, like it's a little more storytelling style video than what, Jimmy's main channel content typically is. And I was like, oh, he's gonna flame me. And I was remember thinking like, oh man, I do not want him to watch this because it's gonna discourage me. And I need encouragement right now when I'm going off my own. So I expect him to click off at 1 minute, and he sits down and he watches it, and he gets past the first minute, and then he gets past the second minute, and he gets past the third and the fourth minute, and before we knew it, he watched the entire 20 something minute video front to back without stopping, laughing and emoting the way I was trying to get the audience to emote. And he turns around and he tells me that's the best YouTube video I've ever seen in my life.
Wow.
And I was like, oh my God. And this was in front of Eric, the Eric and all these other creators. And I had been given this like gold medal compliment. And basically he made me send him the private link to the video. And the video, so it's a private link, no one can watch it, right? Unless you have the link. And the video had 150 views like the next day. And that's because he watched it on a repeat and then sent it to everyone in his company and made them watch it too.
Wow.
And basically, it was at that point that Jimmy realized that he needed to get me on his team. And I wanted to do my own channel at the time, so I didn't really want to do that. But eventually, we came to a deal, and that's the only video on my channel to this day.
Well, there's the first one, right? The introduction video, and then
yeah. So
one,
I did
right?
I did make an intro where I was like kind of trying to paint the picture. Where I was like, yeah, I want to make something different and new and artsy, and then I posted that one other video, the one that we were just talking about, and that was it. I have other videos filmed, but they're not out because I've been swamped with beast work. So, but crazy story basically. When I came to MrBeast, the views went up like crazy, and the editing style went up like crazy. When I got there, a lot of the editors didn't really know how to use Adobe After Effects, which if you've seen Beast Games and if you've seen any of the stuff that I work on, I almost throw every single shot into After Effects. It's almost a flaw. Like I look at every shot and I'm like, how can this get better? How can this get better? How can this get better? And there's a lot of After Effects in the show. And over the next 2 years, the entire team, the editing team grew. A lot of the editors, almost all of them are very fluent in After Effects now. We even have a 3D department for the really advanced stuff. And we all work super, super well together. And on Beast Games, by the time we got to Beast Games, it was, we had all the tools to make this new style of reality TV that I think Beast Games is. And I think a lot of that comes from the edit, and I'm super proud of the way season 1 turned out.
Let me ask you about that because, well, at first I do want to jump back because there was something I saw when I was looking at your past work, because it seems like there's a storyteller in you, and that maybe what was sort of lacking over on Beast side. I don't know. I'm not like my kids are all older, and so Jason knows. I don't know, but there's like, there is something because you introduce yourself in your first video as like, this is the start of my journey, right? And I think that the idea that you want to take people on a journey with you is evident in that the AI video. You also did, maybe you didn't, because you directed the AI one and shot it or partially shot it.
I made that video for $2,000 myself.
It's all up there on screen too, every penny.
It was me and this my friend, my hometown friend. His name's KP. Me and him made the whole thing together, and I edited the whole thing by myself. It took like 3 months because of that, but it was nothing like the level that MrBeast is at in terms of production. It was like very low key and very.
But it does, I think content's king, frankly. Like, it doesn't have to be, super high def and flashy. If you got something to say,
right.
I think that sort of like I don't know, I want to say the bar is low, but it comes through. But you had done, and I don't know what you did on it. I'm assuming that it was something that you made. It was a commercial called
wow.
This
is old. Are you talking about the Toyota commercial?
Yeah, the Toyota commercial. What is it? What was it? It's not okay.
So this is not a lot of people know anything about this, but right before I went to film school, this is crazy that you brought this up. I haven't thought about this in a long time. Basically, Toyota hosted this nationwide competition to see basically for high school students to make a commercial, like a anti-texting and driving PSA, basically. And I was ditching class in high school, and I was in the library looking at cameras, and I was trying to figure out what camera to buy because I was obsessed and I needed to level up my camera fleet, right? And I was about to pull the trigger on this $800 camera, which was like my entire bank account and then some at the time.
Mhm.
And this teacher comes by and I think I'm screwed. She's like looking at my screen. I'm definitely not on task. But she says, "Oh, you're into video?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And she says, "Oh, you should sign up for this competition. It's a Toyota's hosting this commercial competition." And I looked into it, and basically the grand prize is $15,000.
Oh boy.
Yeah. And I'm looking at the other applicants and I'm like, holy smokes, I can beat these guys. That's what I was thinking. And so me and my same guy, KP, that helped me with the AI video, we made this commercial against texting and driving. And I basically remember that I needed it to be really sad when I was a
Mhm.
kid. Because that was what I was obsessed with at the time, was trying to basically level it up to the point where I could make someone cry. I was obsessed with trying to make someone cry. That was like my current mission. And I remember I showed it to my mom when it was done, and my mom and my dad both cried, and they cried because it's pretty powerful if you watch it. It had to be a minute long, and to make someone cry
Mhm.
in a minute is difficult to get them
Yeah.
attached. Yeah, so we ended up submitting this thing, and I'm at the senior press conference later, and the Toyota representatives walk out, and they call me up on stage, and all the girls I had crushes on, and were in the audience, and all my teachers were there, and then they gave me the giant check, and we won the thing.
Wow, that's
Wow.
great.
It was
I
ridiculous.
didn't know you won. I just saw it on there, and it's, I don't know, because you're using a word like optimize in the editing for audiences, and I think that's a way of saying something that you did in that commercial, which is like to tell a compelling story and do it quickly. Like that's hard, and people
It
don't
is hard.
realize like it's
You've
harder than
definitely heard
doing
the
it over 30
story.
minutes.
You've
Hmm?
definitely heard the world's shortest story, the world's shortest sad story. I remember I learned this in film school. It was baby shoes for sale, never worn. You heard that before?
Oh God, no. I must
That's
have,
this.
but like,
It's like a story that can make someone cry in like 5 words or something. Um,
mhm.
I remember actually that I took that. Someone told me that in film school, and that like kind of inspired me a lot because um when I think I cut you off there,
No, it's
but
just there's an economy to it. And yeah, of course, a sadness because you kind of know what's going to happen. You hope that maybe, but like it's a PSA, so like
right,
when police show up, you get
they
it,
tell
and
them,
it's a heavy
yeah.
trip. Um, I just didn't know you won $15,000. I guess you got the camera
No, I
after
I
all.
did, and that was like that money was so important to me. So me and my buddy, we split it. And when I left film school, that was like the money I had saved up. And that's the money that I was able to leverage and get me to Los Angeles with my friend later. And when we were first making our channel, we had no money and we were losing money, and no one was getting paid, and I was afraid to eat. I was afraid to buy food. But that money is what I lived off of like 6 months in LA, which,
God.
you live in LA, it's not possible, but we did. And eventually we started making some money. But yeah, it was a wild trip. It's like every single piece was necessary to get to the point where we're making beast games. It's pretty crazy.
Mhm. Yeah,
Hey,
it's like you couldn't write it. Like you couldn't. And that's we hear it time and again. Like someone, an editor saying, like, I was on set and someone was like, "Does anyone know an editor?" And they just went, "Me." And like that snowballed into a career. They're like head of post at this company. Like it just there's a there's no two ways to make it. But it sounds like you you know sort of created your own luck in a way. You decided to do something, you committed to it, um, and just sort of, I don't know. It's different than manifesting because it's not like you just closed your eyes and made it happen. You worked hard for it.
The thing is, though, I think that's so important is like I didn't work hard for it for a kind of an outcome as much. I was like sort of innocently, I've been innocently obsessed with editing forever. And the world happened to form in a way where that like was a profitable skill in a new industry. and you can move up and it's super fast. The whole internet industry like is like it's still in its like mom and pop phase. Like there are no systems, there are no unions, there are no anything. And it's just who's the best. And you can I think that I mean if there are any people that are maybe 16 through 18 or even 20 or whatever watching this, like you'd be surprised how much absurd progress you can make in this industry right now because there are a bunch of creators and they're all looking for the best editor and they all want to stand out in the noise and there are no systems in place yet. And there's so much money to be made because these creators are making so much money. And even with Jimmy, MrBeast trailblazing a little bit, bringing the show to Amazon, like these creators, I imagine, are going to start having TV shows if they can handle it. And I mean, the difference. I mean, I'm telling you, the most important part by far to a YouTube channel is editing, by far, because it's not scripted. So the story comes out in post. You just shoot what happens. It's like almost documentary style, but then you almost cut it like a trailer. It's like that's like that's the weird shift. But to make like Beast Games is just okay. At the end of Beast Games on episode 10, you guys familiar with the graphic where they flip the coin and it like zooms into the coin? Me and 3D artist named Desert Sage made that together. But in the graphic, we say something about Beast Games being a sandbox, and that's because there's just 1,000 people, and we just turned the cameras on and said, "All right, the simulation is going to do what it does." And the story for all of that, there's so many different stories you can tell with that group of people, but it all really comes down to the edit. And that's the way that YouTube is as well. It's like you can't the most ideal thing that you want to happen doesn't always happen, and you have to make a story anyway. And like I don't know. I think that's such like a cool thing. There's like craft a story out of the clay of the footage that you end up getting.
No, well, we tell our students too, it's like sculpture, right? You start with a slab of stone and what's
Yes.
left is the product in a way, right? I mean, it's weird because in documentary, I think is so great about it is that you can take things that aren't intended, right? Something that was from the finale, like the end moments, and stick it in the beginning and kind of create. There's no rules. Like you're
Yeah,
writing with the
100%.
footage, in a way that you just don't do it in scripted work at all.
And a good example of that is on episode 10, the grand finale of the show. They're playing this game where there's like a lazy Susan basically with like a bunch of briefcases on it. And the game was designed to go multiple rounds, but it only went one. And so as an editor, I was like, oh, the pinnacle of all this content is kind of lackluster and we're not going to have enough suspense. But if me and you stare at each other, Josh, right? You're waiting for me to finish talking. And then all of that time of you waiting, I can just use that with a room tone behind it as a long pause and the vice versa. And you can kind of create this intensity in the edit that like maybe didn't exist on set because there are things for people that are like super uncomfortable and just long staring is just you'd be surprised how many seconds you could go without a single word of dialogue of just long staring and ramping up intensity. It's pretty insane. And that is the main strategy used on that final scene. And it took me a while to make because I just stripped away everything. I categorized it by emotion. Like what emotions, like their little micro emotions in their face, their long pauses, and I put it into separate sequences. And then like I knew what happened because I was on set and I just reassembled the whole thing, but as glorified as I could make it because I knew that the show needed it. The show needed to have this like really intense ending. And
Mhm.
I think that comes across, and that is the reason that comes across is editing. If you play that thing live, I mean, it's intense and the emotions are there because of the situation, but it is not that, right?
Mhm.
So, yeah, I think editing is like, yeah, super important.
So I have to jump in here. Mac, usually 10 minutes ago, I would have jumped in and said, give us a little bit of your background. And you nailed it. You started out by saying this raw, like how you got into it. So that that question no longer exists. That comment no
I'm
longer
sorry I
exists.
talk so much. You can just tell
No,
me to
no, no,
shut
no.
up if I'm talking too
This
much.
is perfect. This is perfect. But I'm going to give you probably the highest compliment that I've ever given anyone on this show. One of the most famous editors we've ever had here is Paul Hirsch. And I'll assume that you know who Paul Hirsch is.
Yeah. Of course. Yeah.
And he said his advice to young people is don't do this. Don't get into editing, go into gaming, go into something that's more relevant. You just coined it. Josh, Jason, I'd love to hear your perspective on this. You just basically gave the one perspective that doesn't combat it, and it doesn't conflict. It complements what he's saying. That you took the fresh perspective on editing, and you're saying, no, it could be done even better and even better. And I'm honored that a young person would have such an incredible perspective on editing today and its relevance. Josh, Jason?
Well, the biggest compliment after that, just before he said that one, was that I look like I lost some weight. Thanks, Rafi. I mean, Jesus,
That's close. Those
that
two
was,
are pretty close together.
well, that to me it's a close second because I'm very, very obsessive about it. No, I think that it's probably not an
By the way,
accident that
one before you go on, that compliment, I'm not great at taking compliments. That means a lot to me. Thank you, by the way. Sorry, you go ahead, Josh.
No, I think there's something about like the obsession with shapes and sort of patterns and things, because when you were saying like you're looking for micro emotion, you can sort of expose people to footage and sort of like the the curation process and performance selection. It's a very difficult thing to teach someone what you just did in that moment, which is like, I'm going to look for those moments where there's something going on behind the eyes, where I can take like this thing that wasn't like it didn't take that long, and I can expand it so that there's this tension, right? And I can take that tension and I can magnify it. Those are the kinds of things that like it's hard to teach. Kind of have it, right? Like you sort of like it's something. It's probably the reason you gravitate towards us in the first place is because there's some part of you that's looking deeper into things.
Probably one of the smartest things I've ever done for my career. It gave me all the tools that I needed to be able to jump into a new career. Getting myself into a mindset, thinking like an editor, and being around people that I can talk to on that level was really invaluable to me.
A lot of the things that I learned from that class, I still think about.
I loved the classroom. I loved the computer stations. We built a sense of community.
And it also instills a lot of confidence in you to take that and go out into the world.
After I took the class, I felt very prepared to take the next step.
I owe Manhattan Workshop the career that I have right now. Things have been going great, and I really have the Manhattan Workshop to thank for that.
The editing is just always about how do you make something better? How do you keep making it better and better and better and better? And I think a lot of new editors, at least in my experience, having trained a lot of editors, a lot of new editors are stuck in this box of what the footage exactly portrays. And I mean, you can't go too far with it because you don't want to be dishonest. But when you have the footage and what really happened is there, like even a thing like a bug flying by someone's face and they like flinch a little bit. What if I just take the bug out and now all of a sudden I have a flinch to a revolting flinch that this person's not an actor. They cannot flinch to what someone says. And then you can create this sort of like emotion that doesn't necessarily like it's there's so much emotion on set and it's so hard for it to actually come through on video. The way that those two were portrayed at the end is the way they felt. It's honest. But to make that come across in a video, it's this heightened level of reality that needs that extra layer of intensity. And I remember the micro emotions. I needed every single time someone said something, the other person needed to react. And that because the audience is they're ambassadors for the audience. They want to know how they feel. And yeah, there was a time where Tawana, who got second place in the show, she basically Jeff made this remark about her family, and um, Tawana was basically having these sort of micro reactions to what Jeff was saying through the entire time in that scene. But when we got to that point, we basically we shot some stuff of after the fact of Tawana's flipping through an old photo book of her family, and rather than having her micro react there, she was just super deadpan. And it's almost like she was frozen and nervous and scared about this like crazy jab that Jeff had made. But the way I got that shot was, I think she was waiting for the game to start. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's just so that like breaks editors' brains usually when like at least the editors that come into YouTube. It's probably like a pretty well-known trick and traditional, but just that concept alone, editors get obsessed with the technicality of After Effects and how do you keep movement in the scene and blah 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 blah. But like just the groundbreaking thing of like, oh, the audio doesn't line up with this video. Okay, use the audio and the video in different spots. Like you can just create this new storyline or heightened version of what really happened, which I think is really cool.
I think documentary helps train you for that. Oh, go ahead, Jason.
Yeah, I have two questions before Josh takes away all my time. One is, how do you do that, like that detail, but then you scale up to something like the Beast games, where you go from like, it's not that MrBeast, any of his videos are small at this point, but like where you're having thousands of cameras and like, you know what I mean? Like how do you take all of that? It's almost like you have too much detail to go through.
You know what it's kind of like? It's kind of like you got to make a sandwich and you're at the grocery store. If you wanted to watch all the footage for episode 1, it would take you 2 years. So I can't even see it all, but I'm not going to look at every item in the grocery store. I knew what happened on set. I knew who the winner was, and I knew what characters needed to be developed. And so we built the story around them and things that happened around them. And after that, so let's say I needed to get my bread. That was my bread. You know what I mean? And I'm starting to figure out, I'm like, I don't know what kind of sandwich I want to make yet, but I know it needs to be a sandwich. So I got the bread. But when we're talking about how people react to challenges, how people react to events, now it's like I'm just kind of looking around. And I remember I can listen to about 4 to 5 audio tracks simultaneously, but 6 I could not. And so I was just scanning this giant library of footage constantly, just grocery shopping, just picking out ingredients and creating sequences of shots that I thought were powerful. And the thing that you have to remember is ultimately at the end of the day, for 99% of the situation, it doesn't matter how much footage you have. One shot is going to be on screen at once. And you can almost take peace in that because you got to make a decision. And objectively, if you put 2 things side by side, one thing is better than the other. And if you look close enough, you can figure out which one's better than the other. And it was the entire post-production for season 1 took about 3 months, I believe. And about a month of that was primarily me and just a few other editors just editing episode 1 by ourselves. The final cut of episode 1 is like the first 2/3 of it are basically me, are all me. And I was really freaking nervous when I first got there. I'd never seen 1,000 audio tracks before. Premiere Pro, the slot we chose to edit in Premiere Pro, had never seen that technicality of a production. We had to have Adobe engineers on set or on site, ready to create new features for us to even make this thing exist. And I was so scared because this $100 million production was it had been shot, it had went well, and now it was on the editing team to get it done. And I was sort of the leading creative voice on the editing team. And it was so freaking scary. But I took a lot of relief in the fact that only one thing can be on screen at once. And the story weirdly kind of told itself when we were editing. We just found the shots that we needed. I don't know how and I if I had to go back and edit the show again, you wiped my memory, it'd be completely different because it's just so much footage. And the things that I would pick would be completely different the second time around. You could edit 5 or 6 different versions of that episode that would all be equally as good, you know. Maybe I didn't even find the best version. You know what I mean?
You
So
never know. I mean, the people like there's probably more than 5 versions. You know, people say like this stuff's not, it's never finished, it's abandoned because the deadline comes and you got to,
that is so good. I love that.
Yeah,
I love
it's
that
like,
so yeah, eventually you just gotta eventually you can't go anymore. And like, yeah, that's a great way to say it. Eventually you can't keep making it better because you're out of time.
yeah, and
Jason,
you can
was that
also
your second
over-edit
thing?
something. Oh yeah,
No,
you have
my second one, Josh is trying to
I'll
sneak.
shut up.
Easy. My second one is because you got to know everybody. You're a part of the show. Like, how do you there's got to be like besides what we just talked about, how much stuff you have to deal with, you're personally connected to them a bit because you were there and you got to know them and all that. So we know there's a winner, obviously, that's decided, but like even then, you're still portraying these people, and there's personal connections, I'm sure, at some level. How did you like just like, okay, I'm done with the show now as a character, a part of it. Now it's time to put my editing hat on, and like I'm just gonna be on that without, having that stuff interfere. I'm doing it for the show. You know what I
I
mean? Like,
Yeah. I mean, when I was on set as a co-host, it felt like whenever someone left, it was like they died or something. Because it's like there was like 1,000 people, and to be honest, they were all most of them were fans of the the body of work already. So like they were all super friendly and everything, and it felt like I had 1,000 friends. And as the show progressed, that people would start getting eliminated, and it felt like my friends were just going away. And you know what I mean? I had no way to contact them or anything because they were just contestants and then they were gone. Um, and it was kind of sad. And it's like I kind of like showing up to set was a little bit more and more lonely and a little bit more and more intense as the show progressed. It's pretty interesting feeling. But when I got to post, I think that the level of task at hand scared all that out of me, and I like a squirrel forgot all of it because there was no room for any of that. There was no room for any personal biases of any kind. It was what served the direction we're going the best. And I mean, if there's a person I liked on set that I thought was funny, but they didn't make a joke on the subject of the topic I'm trying to, progress, or they aren't a seed for something that happens later, didn't matter. And there were contestants that I met them in post. I met them in the footage because you can't meet everybody, and people that ended up being important, I didn't even interact with, and I had to learn about them as the edit progressed. So the thing that is the most mind blowing about the whole show to me is that Tawana second place and Jeff first place were side by side in episode 1. How is that possible? It doesn't make any sense to me. And we have audio of them conversing together, as just people in this like Hunger Games situation of a crowd of people trying to progress. They're next to each other, kind of, rooting for each other in episode 1 before they know of all the crazy stuff that's about to go down. And that's like the storyteller's like little like perfect scenario, because you could plant so many seeds with them together and then they end together. And I actually edited the whole show with the intent of having it seem like Tawana was going to win. She had like the most plot armor, and then because I didn't want it to be as predictable, and then Jeff's story comes in, and then Jeff outplays her in the final game. But I think I rambled a little bit there, but I hope I answered your question.
did.
I don't want to talk because Jason's like, you got
go ahead.
Yeah, the clip is empty, Jason, right?
I'm done.
There's like miracles that happen all the time like that. And there's a documentary that you'll probably never see. I don't know if it's out there. It's called Chops. And it's about this contest that high school bands go through called Essentially Ellington, where they play basically Duke Ellington charts as a band and they compete. And the top 5 go to New York to Lincoln Center and they play with Wynton Marsalis and they compete to win a jazz competition. And you never know. They followed a bunch of schools and they happened to follow the one that won in New Orleans. And you'd never know. Like you get lucky that way. And it was like the year after Katrina. And they go in there and they get to the finals and they do workshops all week and then they play their song and they dip into an improv at the end and play When the Saints Go Marching In. And that's why they won, because they brought something new and interesting. But like the filmmakers had no idea a year before that this scrappy band in New Orleans was going to end up being the one that took it. And it was like, you
Stuff
just can't
like that makes you feel like it's like it was always going to happen that way or something. It's like really
well,
weird.
it looks integral. That's the cool thing, is that like you
pattern
planned it that way.
The pattern recognition part of your brain looks at that situation and it's like, oh, it was going to always, like, of course, and it's almost, you kind of feel that way when you're editing too. Sometimes, like, I felt like, oh, I just feel weird about this clip, I'm just going to put it in, and like, that's just all like superstition and weirdness. But I don't know, art's abstract, and it's just, yeah, I the whole thing is so bizarre, and such a strange experience. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, it sounds like one that you're really enjoying. I mean, that's kind of like, a lot of, that's like people edit because people get into art because of passion, and it seems like you really found something that satisfies a lot of interests and needs and passions for you. And so, I mean, it's a great place to be. I mean, the funny thing is, you're what, 25?
I am 25. Yeah.
Yeah, like you have a lifetime's worth of career ahead of you too.
Didn't Spielberg make his first movie already?
I was going to ask if you saw The Fabelmans, because some of the stuff you were talking about doing really young reminds me of some of the early films, and he got all his buddies to go out in the desert and do war movies and stuff. And yeah,
I mean, he made Jaws at 28, didn't he?
Yeah, but that wasn't even his first. That was his third movie.
I know, but he made like a banger at 28. Like,
yes.
he made like, it's just, yeah.
Well, the birth of the blockbuster, you could say, right? But that thing was almost like a shit sandwich. That, like, you've seen stories about what a disaster
What do you
that
think
shoot
saved
was. Yeah, exactly. The editing.
Yeah.
As it always does.
As it always does. The filter, the final filter. If all other parts of production fail, editing can still save.
There's a guy who says, he's an editor we've worked with our students, that, like, there's a lot of parts of building furniture, like building like a secretary, right? That's the piece of furniture he refers to. But when it comes out of the editing, like, there's no place it goes after. It is the piece of furniture that it's meant to be. It is the piece that's meant to be once it comes out of editing. Like, you can't fix it after that.
Yeah.
Its final form is revealed. And that's true. Like, there's like all these births, in the writing and casting and acting and shooting, but editing is the final stop.
I think editing needs more publicity.
It almost got pulled from the Academy Awards, by the way. It almost became a technical award that was done, right, Jason? Like,
I mean, it's
remember Ace sent out those letters and stuff? Like, they were going to basically take it out of the primetime broadcast.
We're going to have it like one of those, like, recap from the day before or whatever.
I mean, it is the thing that makes the product what it is. It is the final filter. It is Beast games without editing. Now, everyone did great on that show. But here's what I'm going to say. That show is just unlimited footage. It's just I almost cussed there. I caught myself. It's just an unbelievable amount of footage. And the challenges are great. The contestants are great. But, like, it's the editing is what makes it. It's like making a wooden house out of a forest. Like, you have who knows what that house is going to look like? Who knows which trees are going to be used? It's like unlimited possibilities. That show could, like I said 5 earlier, I don't know what I was thinking. I mean, it could edit it 1,000 different ways. You could edit that show like any one of the people are the protagonists, at least on episode 1. You know what I mean? It's like, it's just, yeah, it's so editing heavy. So editing is so important. I think that, yeah, and I wish that more people knew that, because they don't. It's like the artwork of motion picture and and reality TV. It's everything. You want to know something that's interesting? I don't know if you guys have another question, but I want to tell you something interesting. So I trained a lot of editors, and um, my little brother, his name's Scotty. He just started editing this year, but because of the way that I train editors, I use basically a library of references from movies that I really was obsessed with as a kid. Make this feel like this. Make this feel like Dunkirk. Make this feel like the 2005 War of the Worlds remix. Make this feel like make this feel like the the shot in Terminator 2 when it's just like the road and you hear this like music with Sarah Connor's voiceover. Make that the way that this feels. I could go on and on, but movies that my dad showed me. This is how I communicate with editors. If I talk with my hands, and that's actually how we were communicating on Beast Games. I would record videos of revisions for people, and I talk with my hands. I made them watch the video. I didn't just write notes. I recorded myself because I wanted my hands to speak. And but when I'm training editors, I use my hands, and I also show them these movie references. But because my little brother had the identical library of movie references that I did, and even the context of what watching them with my dad felt like, he became an editor on Beast Games. Never an editor, had never edited, to editing the final product of a bit on episode 10. It was the fastest progression I'd ever seen in my life. I could not believe it. And I think that the thing that made that work is it's how fast you train someone is all about how you communicate a vision. And it's like we already had the communication done before we even had the first conversation. Super interesting.
Can we give a quick shout out to your dad?
Yeah, we have to give a shout out to my dad. Wait, actually, do you guys want to see my first edit ever?
Time out, guys. We literally have 6 minutes left, and we have another 4 hours of grocery stores to go through, and all of your amazing analogies, Mac. So you have to promise to come back. You have to promise to come back.
I'll come back on the condition that you watch. Yeah, I'm going to share my screen, and you're going to watch a 5-second video.
Let me allow.
Yeah. Are you ready?
Yeah.
This is not a lot of people have seen this. This clip has 300 views. You guys are gonna love this. That's an editor right there, baby. Look at that kid. Oh, I'm Arnold Schwarzenegger from Terminator.
Nice walk off, by the way.
That is awesome.
You know what I mean? Dude, I'm telling you, it's been my whole life. I'm super obsessed with it.
It's amazing what you could do. Wait, hold on.
I think every kid has that car growing up. That little car. Yeah. My kids had that car.
That's the whip. That's the car you want.
That's the car you want. I know. They built those into shopping carts at the store. Like my kids would like jump into the cart that had that car built onto the front, so they could be like driving around while I was like shopping.
Yeah,
and
you took it from the grocery market and you took it home, or did you actually?
I took the whole cart home. Yeah, no, and I sometimes I ride around in it.
So since we have an extra couple of minutes, what we usually do is we wrap up by giving takeaways. I'm going to totally steal thunder here right now and tell the cliche. Mac, this is so boring. Like you're like you were born with this raw talent and you have a passion about it. And it is, I guess we've interviewed 20 to 30, what episode are we up to? 20 to 30 editors. And everyone has a story, but you've got this passion and raw talent that just totally comes through the screen. So my takeaway is be born with raw talent and passion.
It does help.
So Mac, what is your takeaway? What's your advice that you would give to someone watching out of everything, all these golden nuggets that you've given us? Please share one.
Ultimately, if you want to become an editor and you want to even do anything in this industry, ultimately it all is about solving an abstract thing. And for me, and this is probably pretty relatable for most people, is I have watched movies and I have felt the entire spectrum of emotions. And I wanted to recreate them. I wanted to make something that made someone else feel the emotions that I felt watching a movie. And I think that if your goal is that is your goal and you just work at that, you will become a great editor. And it's just like, how bad do you want to do that? How bad do you want to wield the sword of emotion? How bad do you want to do that? And if you want it bad enough and you care enough about it, you will become a great editor, because there's just, or a great storyteller, or a great cinematographer, or a great director, because art is abstract. And ultimately, at the end of the day, the only people that can judge abstract art is the person that you're making it for. So if you felt a certain way and you want to make the other people feel that way, that is how you judge the abstract, and that is how you make great art, in my opinion. So that's the name of the game right there. If you can do that, then I think that you're in a great spot.
Thank you, Josh. And then Jason, why don't you wrap it up with what we have going on at the workshop? Don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, and do all that stuff.
Thank you for taking that
button,
burden off me. Yeah, exactly. We'll have a little ding ding on there. By the way, I feel totally vindicated that, like, my kids, when I watch movies with them, lights off, phones off, no talking. Like, it's it's
mandatory.
A sanctuary. And I can't tell you how mad I am that the Disney Plus subscription that I'm like shaving off of one of my relatives for free is now has commercials, because I'm watching stuff that's meant to be absorbing, and I'm getting interrupted by eczema commercials every 6 minutes, and they should know better. Like, it's like, really, Disney, like, come on, like, you had it and you blew it. And but anyway, I told my relative I would pay that difference to get the commercials out. I mean, for Manhattan, I mean, look, this is exactly the kind of thing that we try to bring out in students. Some of it's teachable, some of it's observable, and you see somebody who's like has that passion, and it's like it's just built into the work that they do, and you're like, this something's going on over here. But it's inspiring, really, to have some contact with that in these interviews. This is partially why we're doing this job, is to talk to people like you, and hopefully what you're saying hits with some people out there that are like, yeah, I feel that way, and maybe I can do this.
I hope it does. I hope it does. And good. I think that my kid I will make my kid watch an unhealthy amount of movies. Probably. I'll probably take it too far. So,
Jason, you want to wrap things up with your takeaway, and then what's going on?
Sure. I mean, I echo everything you guys all just said. It's all amazing stuff, and it was great to talk to you. I mean, the passion is there. My only other takeaway is that you are now the Cozy Coop. I think it's called a Cozy Coop Killer. That's what that little Tykes thing is. I think that.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
I did not realize we were going to talk about MrBeast.
Watch it burn.
Cozy Coop stock is plummeting because their products being destroyed by me constantly.
Exactly. But we have some great events coming up. So we have the editors of Severance, the editors of Shrinking, and so
Severance,
yeah.
Dude, get me on that one. I'll just listen.
You want to moderate?
No, I'll just listen. I want to talk to.
Oh no, we'll give you a link. We already recorded it. But
yeah.
Oh, dang it. Okay.
Fantastic. But that's what we got. I mean, of course, we got workshops running. We got a color correction, After Effects, all that good stuff. So go to the site, check it out. That's what we got going on.
All right. So on behalf of the Manhattan Edit Workshop, thank you so much, Mack Hopkins. We really appreciate you being here. Josh Apter, Jason Banky, always a pleasure to talk MEWShop with you, gentlemen, and we'll see you all next time. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the button, do it all.
Thanks a lot, Mac.
And let's get beyond those 150 million views and get up to 100. Get beyond the 15 million.
You guys
views.
need to be beating MrBeast. This podcast needs to get more views than MrBeast does.